I'm sure at some point in time you would have wondered whether to go for a 1-year MBA or a 2-year MBA. Now in this video, we'll try to discuss the merits and demerits of going for either of these so that you can take a call accordingly. Now if you look at the 1-year MBA that exists. Now 1-year MBA is primarily done by individuals who have had some work experience. For a lot of institutes, they might have a minimum requirement of at least 2 years of work ex or even 5 years of work ex in some cases. So people with work experience who would want a good brand on their CV. These are primarily the ones who might want to go for a 1-year MBA. So let's say, for example, you have done your schooling and college from an institute which is not exactly regarded top tier. But now you desperately want a good brand on your CV so that the remainder of your career pans out well. So in that particular scenario, a 1-year MBA from a very good B school will help you build that particular brand on your CV. Now if you look at the admission process for a 1-year MBA, it is slightly less in terms of the competition that exists. The process is more or less similar compared to what you would have gone for if it were a 2-year MBA, just that the number of applicants who are seriously pursuing or seriously thinking of pursuing a 2-year MBA will be very less compared to people who would go for a 2-year MBA. So that is the primarily difference that exists. In terms of competition, it will be slightly less competitive, but considering that you would have significant work ex, it would be a task for you to clear the aptitude test and the interview. So that is something which balances things out a bit. But again, objectively speaking, if you look at the entirety of the process, the number of people taking the test or the number of people in contention for the seats that exist, then this is a lot less competitive compared to the 2-year MBA program. Then if you look at the kind of people that get into this MBA program. So as I told you earlier, there will be people with some work experience who will be part of the 1-year MBA program with at least 2 years of work experience. Now these people will have some clarity in terms of what exactly to do in broader terms. So if you are looking at the functional expertise, these people with some work ex will have a better idea of whether they want to get into, say, marketing or finance or HR or operations or IT. So they will know what exactly is it that they are interested in. And that gives them a lot of clarity in terms of what needs to be done in that 1 year as well. So it will be a focused effort for the entire year that will help you grow your career in a particular function. Then if you look at the CVs that these people will bring to the table, these people will be experienced with a lot of positions of responsibility on their CV. So these people would have already taken up some leadership role, they would have led some team, some project, they would have taken sort of a lot of initiatives at their workplace, and that is why they will have a CV which will tell the organizations that these people are already in leadership positions and they have already done something wherein they have shown these capabilities. So that is basically how a 1-year MBA aspirant CV will differ from a 2-year MBA aspirant's CV. Then if you look at the targets that these people have in terms of what is going to happen after the MBA, they are primarily looking at mid-level or top-level management roles. So they will not be looking at entry-level management roles. They will be looking at getting into roles wherein they would have already achieved some expertise and then going forward. So for example, let's say I'm talking purely in terms of marketing here. If after an MBA, a 2-year MBA rather, you would have gotten into a role which would expect you to head a state, let's say for example. After a 1-year MBA with some relevant work experience, you would get into a role which will help you handle multiple states. So you will probably join one level above where a 2-year MBA would have joined. So that is basically the extent to which you can see your career growth after a 1-year MBA. So this will count as a mid-managerial role. If you look at the top level management roles, if you're looking at a national sales manager kind of a role, then again that would be possible, but for that you would have significant work ex before you go for your 1-year MBA. So depending on how much work ex you have, how much talent you have, or how much expertise you have in a particular function, you will be given roles pertinent to that after your 1-year MBA. But most probably they are going to be mid-level or top-level managerial roles. Finally, if you look at one of the things that is different when it comes to a 1-year MBA, it is in terms of placement support. Now, after 2 years, 5 years, 7 years, 10 years of work experience, it is expected that you will have better network, you will have better contacts in the industry, that will help you get roles after your MBA. And that is primarily why you will not really have companies coming to campus. There is a lot of difference between two candidates, let's say, who are going for a one-year MBA program, be it in terms of their work ex, be it in terms of their expertise, be it in terms of their content. So a lot of differences will be there. And that's why you can't really have a mass placement process for a one-year MBA program. So although there might be some suggestions that will be made to you, there will be some opportunities that will be open to you, there won't exactly be a formal placement process wherein you will be able to sit, the companies will come and then make a choice. So that is not a luxury that you can afford, but then again, it is sort of fair because you will have more expertise in terms of finding the right jobs and finding the right roles that are there. So for someone who has some work ex, wants to get into mid-level or top-level managerial roles, but because they don't have an MBA, they are not able to apply to these kind of roles. A one-year MBA is going to be the perfect choice. And that is basically what is going to help you going ahead in your career as well. Now coming to two-year MBA programs. Here things change by a bit, and these are more popular, more competitive overall. So if you look at the first thing, which are the people who will want to go for a two-year MBA? So these will be people who will have limited exposure to functional knowledge. So they will not know what exactly the marketing department of a particular organization does, or the finance department of a particular organization does. What exactly is the role that they would be interested in? So all those things will be a question mark in terms of most of the people who go for a two-year MBA. The whole idea of going for the two-year MBA program is to understand how these various functions work and then choose something which they have the most liking to. The second thing that we're looking at is in terms of competition. So as we saw in terms of an one-year MBA, it was relatively easier to get into a one-year program. But here the competition is going to be intense. So if you look at majority of the tests that are taken by people who want to get into two-year MBA programs, the numbers will be somewhere from 1 lakh to 2 lakh to 2.5 lakhs. So that's the number of people who are interested in pursuing these kind of programs. And that is what makes it extremely competitive. So be it in terms of taking the test, be it in terms of the interview rounds that are there, there will be a lot of competition that will be there. And again, if you want to get an estimate, roughly 5 to 10% of the test taking population will make it to the top B schools that exist. Then if you look at the outcomes after this MBA, so considering that most of these people will be either freshers or with 1 year of work ex, the roles that these people are going to get after their MBA will be entry-level managerial roles. Also, a lot of people with some work ex before their 2-year MBA program would want to change their entire domain. So let's say, for example, you have had work experience in IT before your MBA, and after your MBA, you wish to get into finance. So the 2 years of work ex or 1 year of work ex that you have had before your MBA would not really be relevant for your career in finance. And that is basically the turnaround that you expect to happen in those 2 years of your MBA. So a lot of people will want to switch streams. A lot of people will want to overpower their work ex with their 2 years of MBA and so on. And for these people, a 2-year MBA will be a perfect fit. But having said that, because you want to switch streams, you would get into entry-level managerial roles because you have not had managerial experience in the particular function that you're interested in the past. So that is one thing that you will have to make peace with. But of course, there are a lot of good opportunities available. So entry-level managerial roles are not as bad as they sound. The fourth thing that we're talking about in terms of a 2-year MBA program is exposure to positions of responsibility through committees. So a lot of people, because they would either be freshers or with less than 2 years of work ex, they might not really have had a lot of positions of responsibility. And an MBA gives you exposure to these PORs through a lot of committee work that will happen at your institute. So you could be a part of the marketing committee, you could be a part of the finance club, you could be a part of the placement committee and so on. So as a part of these committees, you are required to drive initiatives. You are required to make the entire campus placement ready, let's say, for example. You are expected to deliver knowledge to people. So all those things will help you become better in terms of handling responsibilities or leading teams. And that is what is expected of you at the workplace as well. And that's why exposure to a lot of positions of responsibility will help you strengthen your candidature. Then if you look at it, you will be able to build your profile very well. So as a fresher or with someone with less than 2 years of work ex, you might not really have a lot of things on your CV. But a 2-year MBA will give you a lot of opportunities to build your CV through, say, projects, internships, competitions. All those things will help you build your CV. It will give you a lot of CV points, as they say. And these things will, one, help you shape your candidature, and two, it will give you exposure to real world scenarios. So that will help you build your profile as well. And finally, the placement departments at a lot of top B schools will be pretty robust in nature. It will be a very well-oiled process because you will be getting a lot of companies on campus. A lot of people will have similar profiles, and that's why it's very easy, or it's not very difficult to convince companies to come to campus. And that is the beauty of a 2-year MBA program. Placements are an integral part of a 2-year program at most institutes, and it will be in a much more organized manner in terms of the placement process. So depending on where you are at this point in time and what exactly is your aspiration, you can go and choose a 1-year MBA or a 2-year MBA. A 1-year MBA is primarily for people with work ex who have a lot of clarity in what they want to do. They want to get into mid-managerial or top-level managerial roles, but they are not able to do so because they don't have an MBA on their CV. So for these people, a 1-year MBA program is a good choice. For freshers or with people who do not really have a lot of positions of responsibility on their CV or who do not really have a robust profile, a 2-year MBA will give them more opportunities to go ahead and pursue their career. Even for people who have had work ex from where they want to switch streams after their MBA, a 2-year MBA will give them more exposure, or it will give them more opportunities to change their profile and direct it in the way they wish to pursue. So that is basically the difference between a 1-year MBA and a 2-year MBA. I hope this video gives you clarity on what you want to do and what are the pros and cons of either of these programs. Wish you all the best with your preparation.